Hello there, I'm Miranda with Alkali Creek Art, and today we are going to use alcohol inks on paper not designed for them. So stay tuned to see what happens. If you saw the video where I did this drawing with graphite and carbon, then you'll remember I showed you a little sample of the paper and how it sounded, and I'll insert that clip here and link that video up here. Can you hear this? I hope you can hear this. So it's definitely like writing on plastics. So this is using this paper here. This is the Stipple Paper. And because it had such a plasticky surface, I wanted to try it with alcohol inks, because when I think of plastic paper, I automatically think of alcohol inks. So we have this turtle, and in my opinion, this turtle is a reference that's been a little bit overused on YouTube, but I am also using it because I just want to experiment, and if I get more serious, then I'll find a little bit more obscure reference, but this is a good one to start with. This project idea came at the perfect time because Dena Tollefson, I'll link her channel up here as well and in the description below, is having her underwater art challenge. Perfect that her underwater art challenge went along great with the idea that I had for doing a test with this paper and alcohol inks, because it needs to be really loose. So I'm really excited. To start with, for supplies, I have all of these Marabou alcohol inks and my extender, and I'll probably have to get brown out because I forgot to do that. And then this came with a Smart Art box, and it's considered an alcohol-based illustration marker, and it's clear, so basically you can use it as an eraser if I need it. And pipettes to get out alcohol if I need it, and that's 99%. And also if I want to open these up and pull a little bit out of here and put onto a ceramic palette to use a brush with. Speaking of which, I do have two brushes that I have set aside just for alcohol ink. And I don't know if I'll need the Q-tip, but I have it. And then I also have my PBO drawing gum. It's masking fluid, so I know people have had mixed results using masking fluid with alcohol inks, but I'm going to give it a try because there's a few whites on this that I would like to keep that way. And yeah, I could erase it with something like this, but I'm gonna try it because I want to know how it works. And I know I'm not on official alcohol ink paper, but we're trying a whole bunch of experimentation today. So anyway, back to the challenge. If you don't know about Dena Tollefson's underwater art challenge, you can check out the channels I linked already, and she does a couple of challenges for the YouTube community, and it's great because she pulls them all together into one playlist, and you can see what all the artists that are participating have done for that particular prompt. Enough talking, let's get into it. So I am just fast forwarding you through the masking fluid process, and I just grabbed those light portions in the cracks of his shell and then a few places on his fins. And I will just say before somebody puts it in the comments below, because that's inevitable, why didn't you just test this on a little bit of the paper first and see if alcohol inks even worked? Well, it's because I have used alcohol inks on a lot of weird surfaces, and I figured even if it didn't quite work, it would be kind of like the paper I've tried, which is photographic paper, and you can still use it a lot and it doesn't seem to waste too much of the ink. But in this case, it was definitely just going to be a huge waste of my alcohol ink. It didn't spread at all. It just absorbed completely into the paper. So I abandoned it because alcohol inks are precious and I didn't want to waste them. The masking fluid worked, however, where it was applied thickly. Also, I'm not going to be throwing this away. I think that this will be fun practice for acrylics. So I'll just paint over it with acrylics and we'll have yet another project to practice with. All right, so I spared you redoing this all, and this is that nice, soft, smooth craft plastic from Graphix. Really fun to work with alcohol inks on this paper, I guess, if you could call it paper. And I put the masking fluid on, like I mentioned, and it definitely acts way different on this paper, so it'll be fun to see what happens. Let's get into it. And so you can see in this example, the alcohol inks are working much more like they're supposed to. So we have a good start here, and I'm just using a bunch of different blues. I think I have 4 on the paper so far, and 1 aqua. and just putting the darker blue around the edges to kind of give him a frame and make him look like he has some movement by keeping my brush strokes mostly diagonally from the bottom left up to the top right. And it's working really nicely. I like it so far. So this paper is pretty unique. I have worked with alcohol inks on Yupo paper and ceramic tile a lot, and you do not get this level of control on those surfaces. But with this Graphix Craft Plastic, you have a lot of control. The alcohol ink pretty much stays where you put it, and so it's nice that you can get that vibrancy of the alcohol inks and still have a measure of control. So I'm really enjoying working on this paper. I love alcohol inks because of their vibrancy, and to be able to keep that and get a little bit more control like we're used to in regular painting is a really nice meshing. So continuing on, I am using some darker colors and putting in the spots on his fins, his face, and his underbelly. And I started with caramel, and I ended up adding a little bit of the blue to it because at the time I wasn't able to find a brown in my box of alcohol inks, although I did locate it later, so I don't know what the problem was. It was pretty obvious. It was right there. You can see I added the blue there and just kind of pulling it into the other parts of the fin, and then I need to finish up the rest of the dots and kind of make them match. So just moving on, looking at the reference paper and putting in the shapes as I see them. So have you ever tried alcohol inks on Yupo paper? And if so, have you tried this paper? Do you feel like the differences are as drastic as I have mentioned? Because they are really drastic to me. You have almost no control on Yupo paper and ceramic tile, and like I mentioned earlier, this paint just stays where you put it. It's pretty cool. I was even able to glaze over the fins and stuff later. And right here you'll see I didn't feel like his chin was standing out enough, so the only way to change that is to put a darker color against it if I wanted to keep the aqua in his chin. So here I'm putting that darker blue back in there, and then I have to make it kind of match and mesh in with the rest of that, and that did take a little bit of effort, and I made sure to keep my brush strokes diagonal so it would all look the same, and after a little bit of time it came together. And then I decided to make his belly stand out a little bit more because I was also unhappy with that contrast in that area. So you see here in a moment I will take alcohol and a Q-tip and kind of erase that. And that's the cool thing about craft plastic, is you can actually take your painting completely off and take this paper clear back to white, so you would never even know you had anything on here. So it's completely erasable, so that's kind of a neat feature of it. And one important thing with your paintings is to make sure you actually have things that are dark enough and light enough on the other side of that, but dark enough is what I'm working on here. Making sure I get the fins even darker, and this is where I found my brown, and then I mixed it with a purple. So I had a nice warm brown, and I really liked the way that made the turtle look. It just really helped things stand out. And you can see me, I'm just layering and layering and then kind of adding a little bit more details for him. And then I finally went back under his belly and put in a super light blue there, and then it took a long time to get the melding part of the part I erased and the part that was already there to look basically like it was supposed to. And at this point I'm adding in the nice bright orange on his shell, and once I did this I was like, oh yeah, this piece is just coming together, looking a lot more like I had pictured in my mind, and it was super enjoyable. At this, you get to the point in your painting you're like, I think this is working, and it's such a good feeling. So I hope you guys have had that experience in your painting. So I'm just going through and adding more detail, just kind of taking a step back and coming back to it. And then this is where I actually glazed over, and you can't glaze on regular Yupo, so that was really cool that you can glaze on craft plastic here. So definitely recommend it if you want a little bit more control. And oh, the best part, taking the tape off and seeing what it looks like without that ugly tape around it. It's just my favorite part of the whole process. And here it is, all done. We have a nice vibrant alcohol ink art piece that just makes me so happy looking at it. I absolutely love vibrant colors, and a great submission for the Underwater Art Challenge. So all submissions were due March 21st, and she will be searching them then and putting that playlist together sometime during that day. So take a look for that on her channel, and again, the link's below. In the meantime, you can search the hashtag Underwater Art Challenge to see artists that have already put out their videos. I put out videos twice a week, so if you liked what you saw today, go ahead and hit subscribe and the notification bell, and it will let you know when I've put out a new video. Again, thanks for joining me. See you in the next video. And this project how perfect to want to test something out that is an underwater creature, and it will, so how perfect, I don't even know what I was saying.